What's up, everybody? Thank you for lending us your eyes and ears.
What
I am
up?
your CJ. I'm here with my illustrious host, Mr. Super Lyrical. How are you, sir?
I'm good, sir. You're far too kind. You're far too kind. How are you doing this evening?
I can't complain, man. I think that we have a great album on deck tonight,
Yes,
or
sir.
today, that we're gonna rock out to. Do you want to let
Yep.
the people know what we're doing?
Yes, sir. We are going back and well, first of all, welcome to revisionist hip hop. I guess we should throw
Oh
the
yeah,
name out there just so people understand. But I feel like if you're watching or listening, you probably know what it is by now. Anyway, welcome to revisionist hip hop. We are going back and listening to Public Enemy's "It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back." This is so last week, we did Reasonable Doubt and I made fun of my man CJ because of, his fandom of one Mr. Sean Carter, Jay-Z. Um, but this one is me. I am the stan of Public Enemy, particularly Chuck D, who I feel like might be a second father in my life because he definitely helped raise me to an extent. I
respect.
hope he's listening. I hope he's listening and he heard that. It's one of the, I'm not a big fan. I'm not looking to meet anybody like celebrity wise, except him and maybe Denzel Washington. But but Chuck D,
Respect.
yeah, like he's the guy that I would want to meet and tell him that, yeah, Chuck D, you changed my life. It's just no question about it.
Yeah,
So
totally agree with that, man. Chuck D is like one of those guys. So this album, "It Takes a Nation of Millions," came out in '88. So at
mhm.
that time, I was 11
Yeah, I
at
was.
that point.
Uh-huh.
So like my history on Public Enemy, I was put onto them in '90, Apocalypse '91, was it? Can't Trust It.
Okay. Yep. Can't trust it. Right.
Is that it?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay,
that was the
so
Can't Trust It was
that's
on that album. Yep.
yes, because I just remember like laying in my bed and then like watching here and like it started on slave ships,
Mm.
slave ships, and then
Yep.
Can't Trust It, and then
Yep.
obviously get back to Arizona. But then it wasn't until later on that I was put on to It Takes a Nation, and it
Right.
wasn't even the full album at first. It was just like some of the songs on there,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
That you just heard over and over. You're like, what the heck is this, man? So then like to hear Chuck D um, talk, and the words that he was saying
Right.
at that age, like I didn't comprehend it because like, what are you like 12, 13?
Sure.
Um, so I didn't really comprehend it, but like I knew I liked this guy,
Yeah.
like he
Yeah.
was talking about stuff. So
Yep.
um, but yeah, so I'm with you, man. Like, and hey, maybe we can figure out a way to make that happen. He can meet Chuck.
Absolutely,
Maybe
yo. I would,
he'll be a guest on the pod one day.
that's what I'm talking about, yo. That will alter my life at this age. I don't even know I don't know what to say. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think I followed him
So,
on Instagram and
so
immediately DM'd him and was like, told him how much he changed my life. I'm like, he doesn't read his DMs, but whatever. Even if he does,
yeah,
he just goes over it. Just another fan, whatever. At least I told him. So, yeah,
right, right. No, you
he's
feel
a
good.
special, yeah, he's a special person in my life for what it's worth, for, whatever it is. So,
I respect it, man. I mean, and
you
look,
know,
they're still making music to this day.
to this day. And their last album was pretty dope, actually. So yeah, they're still doing their thing. And Chuck is still a monster, even in his what,
Yeah,
late 50s, I guess. Yeah, he's still an
yeah,
animal.
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, this album came out June 28th of 1988
Hmm.
and got up to was certified platinum
Hmm.
in 1989, and it was got up to number 42 on the Billboard charts.
Hmm.
Now, some folks have said, and then the Rolling Stone ranked it number 48 of their top 500 greatest albums ever.
Wow.
So, in your opinion, like off the top of your head, like how would you rate this in your greatest albums ever? Top 10, 15, 20?
Well, so let me go back. So with Public Enemy, I was first exposed to Public Enemy with the Fear of a Black Planet album. So I'm gonna say I probably listened to that in, I'm gonna say 90. I think probably 1990. And then
Mhm.
once and for me that was the album, like that, like that was my favorite album out of anything that I had at the time. I was sort of coming off of being like a hip hop and a metal guy at the same time, so I
Mhm.
was listening to a lot of Metallica and Anthrax, and also listening to Run DMC and and whoever. Um,
Yep.
and uh, and a buddy of mine, put me on the Anthrax, and I noticed that Anthrax sort of had a rap influence to them. Like they would do a couple songs where they'd rap and stuff like that. And yeah, I just thought that was interesting to me, and it was the first time I sort of saw a crossover, other than Aerosmith, Walk This Way, Run DMC, but like something with like
Right.
an underground sort of metal group, sort of doing something hip hop related, and then there's a tie-in with Public Enemy later on that I never realized. But anyway,
Yeah.
so I doubled back after I fell in love with the Fear of a Black Planet album, and I went back to Nation of Millions and to Yo Bubba Rush the Show, their first album. So Nation of Millions
Mhm.
was like, for me, Nation of Millions in the hierarchy was second for me, next to Fear of a Black Planet. Years later,
Mm.
they're more neck and neck for me, 1A, 1B, as opposed to 1 and 2. Um, I think now looking back on it and looking back on when that album came out and the social landscape that was happening at the time,
Yeah.
um, you know, for them to put out an album like that, I think I read somewhere where their goal was to do, this was their answer. This was their version of Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On." Like they wanted their album to sort of get away from the yes, yes, y'all, cold, dumb, stupid, chilling thing, from the early
Yep.
'80s and late '80s, and sort of move into something where we're actually talking about, substance on the entire record.
Hmm.
Like we're making commentary from beginning to end, not just, hey, here's our conscious song, or hey, here's our song about, hungry kids, or like we're talking about
Right.
real topics that are real right now because we need to talk about it. So so it ranks pretty high for me.
You-
It ranked pretty high for me, then, and it ranks probably higher for me now, but we'll certainly get into that later.
mhm.
But yeah, it was a pretty important album for me, especially in my adolescence, and
Yeah.
just, I mean, man, I didn't know who Marcus Garvey was until I heard a Public Enemy record. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I had never heard the name Chesimard until I heard a Public Enemy record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Farrakhan. Like I heard of Farrakhan, but I never heard anybody reference Farrakhan.
Yeah.
Until like Rakim and Chuck D, and then
Yep.
that stuff sort of makes you dig into it. Like, well, what are these dudes about? Like, because you don't, as you know, in school we did not learn about these people.
Nope.
you
Don't hear
know,
about.
we,
Nope.
we, we yeah, we've talked about it. There's only a select few that we learn about
Yeah.
at Black History Month, and
Yep.
not in any other month during the school year.
Yes, sir.
So so we so it was pretty groundbreaking for me from a musical standpoint and from a social growing up as a black kid, standpoint as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. It was like listening to the Public Enemy album was giving you a history lesson on things that you didn't even
Yep.
hear about, right? Because like to you, as you referenced, that you didn't learn about those things in school.
Right.
So, and then we'll dig into it more. But even listening to this album, like you start hearing names like Margaret Thatcher, right?
Right.
And like
Yep.
he's going to all these leaders like Oliver North and all this
Yep.
stuff, and or
Yep.
like Iran Contra. And like at that time when this came
Hmm.
out, '88, like this was like the crack era, right? Where like Reagan's
Yep.
and all this, like crack is being specifically placed in black neighborhoods,
Yep.
right? So like
Right.
if you take it from that time, it's like yes, there's a reason why these guys are speaking up about this,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
And this was the voice that these guys are from New York, but this
Hmm.
their voice reaches the world,
Right.
right?
Right.
So now things that are happening, like they were saying that the government was putting these things in these neighborhoods. Well, now
Right.
everybody knows about it,
Right. Yeah.
right?
100%.
So
Absolutely.
it was I remember back then like it was eye opening, but I didn't
Hmm.
fully grasp it.
Right.
And then we'll get into later on like how we are now, right, with
Correct. Yep.
everything.
Absolutely.
So at the time when you first started hearing this, do you
Yep.
remember any tracks that really stood out to you?
Well, right away, Rebel Without a Pause was my favorite track back then.
Yeah.
Um, the thing that the thing that I loved about Public Enemy, you know, sonically, there was a chaos in their music that sort of coincided with what they were talking about.
Hmm.
And Rebel Without a Pause was a great example of that. There's a certain chaos that uh, that goes along with the urgency and the energy that Chuck D is bringing to the table, on these records that one you don't hear about, you don't hear very much anymore. And the other thing that's interesting about it, now listening back, but I don't, it wasn't as avant garde back then. The speed of the tracks, like the BPMs
Yo,
of the tracks. You know what I mean?
yo, bro, can we talk about that for a second? Where it
Yes,
was just
sir.
like put it on this album, and it was just like chaotic. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
yeah,
and but you think about like what he is saying, and it was
right,
he's talking about the chaos that's going on. So
correct.
like
Yep,
when you hear like you're saying like the like the bring the noise and like just how that was and
right.
um Black Steel, like we'll get into that track,
Oh,
but
yep,
like Night of the
yep,
Living Bass Heads, showing
yep,
what you like just and like even to have just instrumental tracks on there
right,
is just is just amazing, man. And
right.
listening to it then I remember being like, yo, this is wild. And
Yep,
that's still I think remember the movie Juice? I think that came out shortly
yeah,
like 92 ish and like
right,
it was fast Big Daddy Kane beats like this, that.
right. Yep.
But yes, I think they did a great job sonically of matching the chaotic sound to
Hmm.
what Chuck was saying, and then Flav, he topped it off with all his ad libs and the Yeah
Yep,
Boys and all this and that.
yep,
Um, but like you were saying something earlier, like before we got on here about like
yep.
the genius behind Flav, right? Because like everybody, like a lot of people, like nowadays people may know Jay Z. A lot of people this era may know Jay Z as just Beyonce's husband, right? But they don't know everything about Jay Z.
Right, right,
So
right.
a lot of people now, like that are, let's say if they're in their 30s, were introduced to Flavor Flav by the Flavor of Love show when he was on there just
Correct.
doing whatever.
Yep.
And then I feel like when I see Flav on shows, like we were literally just watching a baking show the other day in our house, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden Flavor Flav pops up on it.
Right,
And I'm like, and they're like doing the clock, and he comes out, and he's the yeah boy, and all that. And I'm like, is he
right,
playing a character, or is he like, you know what I
right,
mean?
right. Yep.
So, but that's like, but we knew him back then. So, like,
Right.
tell me, like, tell people the story you told me about how he's not just this character guy, like the genius that he really is behind Flavor Flav.
Well, so this is something that I literally found out in doing research for this album. The "Rebel Without a Pause" song, which some people actually saw some people that actually wrote, they considered it the greatest hip hop single ever, which is, just a staggering statement to me. But I get it because of how powerful it was, especially at the time. Um, if for those of us of this age group that have listened to that song, if you have not, do yourself a favor and go listen to Rebel Without a Pause. Go do it immediately. But the the record itself, has a breakbeat in it, which a few of them do, and that sort of coincided with the era. But the thing that was interesting about it was, I think you would sort of assume that that breakbeat was made on a loop, and they just sort of built the beat based off of the loop of the breakbeat. In reality, Flavor Flav actually did the drum programming for that beat, and he did it live, so to speak, in quotes, as in he didn't just, it wasn't made as a loop for him. He just played the loop of the drum beat and the extra kicks and snares that are added in. He played those for the instrumental. It's to even me saying it now, I'm like, are you serious? Like, it's crazy to
Stupid.
me. It's
That's stupid.
nuts. But like Chuck D was in an interview and they talked to him about it, and he said what it did was it gave it a live feel. It gave it like this live energy. It felt like it was a live band that played the music. And I was like, yeah, like listening back, like you can hear like it's not perfectly sequenced, which is part of its lore, without you even realizing it. Like it's part of
Right.
its authenticity. You don't even think about it until you know that now and you listen to it and you're like, it makes sense. Like it does sound like a drummer that's, like it's just a natural, it feels like a natural rhythm,
Yeah.
of the music, which is, what a drummer would do. It's That's mind boggling to me. And I think a lot of people would be stunned to know that Flavor Flav was responsible for that.
Yeah, man. I totally agree with that. And then to hear like the chaotic noises that are going all around that drum, right?
Yep.
So and like this isn't even like the era of when like now, like they have Pro Tools and everything else where you
Right.
can like layer things in. Like back then in the
Yep.
studios, like they couldn't. It wasn't as easy as it is now,
No, absolutely not.
right? So I always wonder, like, what do you think, like, because of all the noises, and you're an artist, right? So like
Yeah.
what goes on in your headphones when you're spitting. So
Right.
do you think that Chuck D had like that entire uh beat laid out and then he went in? Because that's a lot going on,
It's
bro.
a lot going on. That's a great question. From what I'm reading, I have a feeling that that wasn't the case. Like, I think he probably had like a basic skeleton of the beat, and then the
Yeah,
Bomb Squad, and that's something we need to sort of not gloss over is the Bomb Squad and Hank
facts.
Shockley and Eric and Keith Shockley and Eric Sadler and
Yeah,
and Terminator X and
yeah,
Flavor Flav. Like,
yes,
they their ear, the way they did production, for one, no one does it like that anymore. Like, even people that sample don't sample the way they sampled that record. Like,
yeah,
like they used like dozens and dozens of records just for individual songs. Like, there's so much that's in. It's unbelievable how many things they incorporated, just even small snippets that they just put
yeah,
in painstakingly, because now it would be right with Pro Tools. It would be so much easier with so many,
yeah,
with so much drone programming and sample software and hardware. It's so much easier to do that now. But that, like, it's like the equivalent of like washing your clothes in the river. like it's
right,
really
right,
like, you know what I mean? Like it's old, like it's like washboard, like in the creek. Like, this is what they were doing. They were like, okay, yeah, we're just gonna, we're gonna take these little 3-second snippets and oh, we're gonna put that
right.
there, and then and also let's also think about that they had a DJ, and the DJ's doing cuts, and
Yes,
he's doing Transformer scratches on Rebel Without Pause, and he's doing, and
yeah,
Chuck D's thinking of vocal samples for them to use, and this isn't like, hey, DJ
yeah,
Premier, here's a vocal sample, scratch it. This wasn't what they were doing then. Like, this
right.
was very different back then. Yeah,
Yes,
it's a
totally
remarkable,
agree, man.
yeah, it's a remarkable effort by them for just the whole sound as a whole.
Are there any documentaries out on the Bomb Squad or anything like that, man? Because that'd be dope to
That's a
see behind the
yeah
scenes
that
footage and put
that's a
together.
great question, and I think I need to dig into that and see if there is, because I would watch that all
Yeah.
day. Yeah, I would love to
Yes.
just pick their brain. Yeah.
I mean, just for like their albums, man, or like just to
Yep.
see like how they work. You have
Right.
pictures like these 5, 6 people, and I'm sure there's other people there that we never even heard of,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
just like to just go in there and just be like, hey, what did you bring to the table today? Oh, I got this
Right.
album. If there's any, I got this one thing. Let's take a sample from that and
Right.
just take the one ding 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 or whatever from that
Right.
and just
Yep.
build it into this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
What was a so like I know for me what
Yeah.
track like or tracks I loved, man,
Right.
and like I'll get into it, but like I want to tee you up,
Yeah.
like what track now listening to it today, or
Hmm.
not today, like when you listen to it, like were you
Yeah.
like, yo, this hits me a little different now.
Yeah. I hear you. Um, so I would say, so back then, Rebel Without Pause was my number one favorite song on the album,
Yeah,
without question. It was number one.
yeah,
It's funny listening to, going into it. I thought that my new number one. I was like, I don't think Rebel was going to be my number one song anymore.
yeah,
I thought that Black Steel and the Hour of Chaos was going to be my number one.
yeah.
What my number one is now is Night of the Living Bassheads. That
Word.
record, that record, wow! Like, listening to it again, like, I hate to use the word. It's almost perfect. It's
Ooh,
almost a perfect record for
ooh,
what he's talking about,
yeah,
and sonically, like, the sound of that record. Are you like? It sounds like, and it's hard not to think about the video when
yeah,
I'm listening to the record. But
yeah,
watching the video, I remember like years later watching the video, and I was like, "That's exactly what the beat sounds like." Like, as I remember the video where there's like people that are like zombie like sort of
yep,
walking around Chuck, you know what I mean? And
yep,
it was like before zombie things were cool, and
yeah,
and there's like zombies, and they were like all like bass heads or whatever. That's exactly what the song sounds like. Like, it sounds like you feel like there's like ambulances running past you, and there's just chaos on the street, while he, like, I
right,
always think about it when he says it's at the end. I think it's the end of the second verse where where it's not even that poetic. He's just like, this stuff is really bad. I'm talking about bass. Like just that line, like this
Yeah.
stuff is really bad. Like I'm not trying to be musical right now. This stuff is bad. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I always remember that. It always stuck me. Like it wasn't artsy, it wasn't poetic, it wasn't like, oh, what's my hidden meaning? Like, he just like, let me wrap this up with, this stuff is really bad. And that always really stuck with me. And that's what
Yeah.
the whole record feels like. Like it looks like this, it sounds like it's trying to tell you, this is how bad it is right now. This is how bad it is. Like you're right. This is recorded what, 87, 88. So what?
Yep.
We're 2 years into the influx of the crack epidemic. Like
Yep.
we're like, it's fresh. You know what I mean? Like we're knee deep in Reaganomics at this point.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
we're in Iran Contra. Like we're in a
Yes.
lot of things that are
Yeah.
all happening at the same time. And that one really struck me. I'm like, this is one of those perfect records to me. Like it's just
Yeah.
perfect. So that one's my number right now. Like now, that's my number one. Black Steel, the Hour of Chaos is 100% right behind that. Like that record is
Bro.
insane. That record is completely insane. You know what? I'm
Bro.
gonna let you speak on it because I see you. I'm gonna let you speak on it, man.
Yo. So as I'm listening and like going through the album, like I'm reading the words, right?
Right.
On
Yep.
Apple Music, do that. And
Right.
Black Chaos came on, and I'm listening to it and I'm reading along with it, and I'm like, yo, I just stop it.
Yo.
Like,
Right.
rewind the words a couple times because like just the story that this guy tells, man. You know what I mean? And then that beat, that boom, boom, like just beat just makes you just
so
you're
good.
in there. And like but you feel like you're in the jail with him.
You do.
Like,
yes.
You feel like you're in there because just the way that beat is just feel like it surrounds you, man. And then like the detail that he goes into for getting them out there is just like it's chaos. It's chaos.
It is chaos.
And Chuck's voice naturally just punches you. Like he's one of them dudes. If he wasn't Chuck D, the guy that we all know, like you hear him speak, you'd look over to the side and be like, "Who's that talking?" Because this dude,
it makes you pay attention, right?
It makes you pay attention, man.
Mm-hmm.
And Chaos. Listen to that. It was just like, and I'm sitting here listening to it earlier today outside, like earlier this week, but then again today. And I'm at like my kid's soccer practice, and I'm out there just bumping it in the parking lot with all these like soccer families around. I'm just like, oh, okay, Chuck,
right?
But it's just that song, and then there were songs like I forgot that you were even on this album, bro. Rebel Without a Pause, obviously, but then Show 'Em What You Got because my whole stand is on Louder Than a Bomb.
Yes,
it's just.
Oh man,
I don't even know the words, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, when I listened to it again for the first time, probably about a week ago, I decided I'm not going to look at it. I don't want to look at the album, the song titles. I just want to I want to remember it. Like I just wanted to sort of hit me, So the one that hit me, that caught me by surprise, was "Don't Believe the Hype." When it came on, I was like, oh. Yeah. Okay. I had Rebel in my head. I had Black Steel in my head. I had Louder Than a Bomb in my head. Like those were in my head. And I was like, okay. I wasn't thinking about this one. This one's really dope. Like it's really dope. And I remember as a kid, I remember that one got played on Power 99. I remember that was a single that Power 99 played for a little bit. So that one always stuck to me. That's another great record, man. But to your point, we were talking about, like when this album came out and what was going on at the time. And I was actually telling my wife this yesterday. I think it's Prophets of Rage where he mentions Nelson Mandela and Margaret Thatcher. Mandela, cell dweller, Thatcher, you could tell her cleared the way for the Prophets of Rage. And then it hit me. He was still in jail when that album came out.
Oh. Yo.
Right. See what I'm saying? He was still locked up at the time that album came out. That's what hit me. Like As soon as I heard it, I was like, yeah, man, wait a minute. He said that because he was still in a cell in 1987, man.
Wow, yo,
That's
and that's the
crazy.
same track where he mentions Marcus Garvey and
Yep.
they yell Nat
Yeah.
Turner,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Mentions Nat
Yep.
Turner in there, and he calls out like all those world leaders because like I gotta look it up, bro. But like the line he has about like taking you up north, Oliver, like something
Oh
like that.
yeah, 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 yeah. What did he say? Yeah, break
Oh,
north. Oh, break north, just like Oliver's neck. That's what he said.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep. Yes.
you talking about
Yep.
breaking north? Let's break that
Right.
lyric down, right? So like, you're
Yep.
gonna break north, you're gonna
Yep.
run away, but you're gonna break just like Oliver's neck because he wants to break
Just.
Oliver North's neck
Yep.
for everything that they did, the Iran Contra scandal and all that,
Exactly.
bro. Look, brother, right
Yo,
here, man.
I'm saying there's so many levels
Like,
to it, man. But yeah, that
so man, look,
Mandela thing messed me up, man. Like
bro.
that's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you think about it, like it really wasn't that long ago. If you look at like the just life
Right.
in general, right?
Right. Yeah.
It
That's
was
my wife said the same thing. She's like, I think people sort of underestimate how recent history is. You know, like and it's like it's a great point. Like people were very quick to sort of shove things under the rug, like, oh, that was so long ago. That was
right.
not that long ago. Like that wasn't
No,
that long ago, you know?
these world leaders that he's talking about, most of them are still alive, man.
Right.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? Absolutely.
Oliver North was just the head of the NRA till he had to resign or something like that, just like a
Correct.
year ago,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So let's not forget like what that guy was doing just two
Right.
decades before that. So no, these people are still there. And
Yep.
um, just the party for your right to fight.
Yes.
It's like basically it's like a duet. I mean, like
Yeah.
him and Steve like at the
Yeah.
same
At the
time.
same time. Right.
Yeah, and then he's talking about how
Yep.
they set up Martin and Malcolm.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
uh, speaks about how like Black Asians are the first people, right? But how that's like
Yep.
hidden from the history books,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
And like we don't want you to talk about that. So I
Right.
mean, this dude, even though it's only like a couple lines, like for
Hmm.
that part, like the Black Asians, like the where people
Yeah.
came from originally,
Right.
he's still saying stuff like as like younger people at the time, and even like now, like because let's
Right.
be honest, man, there's a lot of stuff about Black history that we learned in
Man.
2020
Yeah.
and really dug
100%.
into,
Yep.
you know. So like the fact that this
Yeah.
brother and Professor Griff, because
Yes.
he was there,
He was
and they
there.
kept the S1W or SW
Yep.
ones, right?
S1Ws. Yeah, you had it right. S1Ws. There you go.
S1Ws.
Yep.
All right,
Hmm.
like those dudes are some
Yep.
knowledgeable brothers, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And
Yep.
you remember Public Enemy when you see them like performing on stage and all the militant guys behind them?
Absolutely. Oh,
Right?
I love what. Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, one thing I always regret is I never saw Public Enemy live. Um, but but watching videos of their their stage show, it was just as like that energy. That so reading with about this album, like so between Brahma's show and Nation, they were touring in Europe, and they were doing a lot of more up tempo music. So they decided that this album needed to be that because that one would translate the energy that they wanted, in addition to what they wanted to talk about for this album. Um, so I
Makes
think they
sense.
had like Rebel and a couple other songs were sort of already done before they came back off tour and worked on the rest of the album. But they knew the energy that they wanted to bring for that album, and they knew what they wanted to say, and yeah, I mean it was relevant then, and it's obviously even more relevant now. you know,
Totally agree, man. And it's funny you say that too, because like the song "She Watched Channel Zero" is
yes,
basically about being brainwashed by the media, right?
right, yeah,
And it's like, like to your point of it being relevant now, like just look at the current situation that we're in, where you have like
right,
these set of news stations, these set of news stations, and then people
hmm
just go like this to the TV and they
yep,
believe everything they hear without doing their own research, right? And coming to their own points
absolutely,
of view.
yep,
And that's she watched Channel Zero. Is like you're just gonna take
yep,
what these people tell you and what they feed you and just roll with it. You don't think for yourself.
right.
It's still relevant nowadays.
It is. Yeah.
Still
Probably
relevant
more
nowadays.
so with the advent of reality TV and and
Mm,
everything else. There's just so much more access to mindless entertainment,
yeah,
that in some ways is just designed to sort of take you away from, the real things that you should really, study and read about and look for.
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions, right?
A
Just in
lot.
life in general. Like we have social media that's
Yep.
designed to keep you on there and all that stuff.
Yep.
So
Yep.
uh, I feel like the current Public Enemy album, if we went back and gave it like a real good listen, probably
Hmm.
like a year or two next. I know you talked about like Agent Orange a lot on there,
Yep.
but like, it'll probably be a lot of stuff that Chuck says in that current album that if we gave it a fair shot, that would be like,
Right.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
right.
100%. No question, man. Yeah.
Another track on here, bro, that
Hmm.
caught me off guard, right? And I want to get to if there's anyone that you didn't think of before
Yeah.
that, like, as you were doing this, it kind of caught you off guard. And then
Hmm.
we'll talk about songs we may not like because I got one that I
Yeah.
didn't really care for.
Yeah. It's probably you
um,
and me. We probably have the same one, but
yeah.
continue. Continue.
Um, caught. Can I get a witness? Is it caught me off
Okay.
guard because I
Yeah.
forgot about this song, and to the
Right.
same as you, I didn't look at the track list. I just pushed play
Mhm.
and
Right.
just let it right.
Yep.
But that song is all about people accusing him of stealing beats and stuff, right? Or like him
Yeah.
trying to get some stuff back, and it's like,
Yep.
oh, like that still goes on. Like nothing's
Still
changed.
goes on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think his perspective was interesting because his idea was, how are you going to say that I'm stealing, from an art form from a music form that you essentially stole from us anyway.
yes,
Like his perspective was very first, it was very on brand with the whole mantra of the album. Like,
yes,
his foot is on the gas pedal every track. Even
yes,
even tracks where you, especially the party for your right to fight. I feel like that caught people off guard. Like, oh, this must be the lighthearted. No, like he was like,
no,
nah. That's how I reeled you
no,
in. Yeah, but that like the whole
yes,
vibe, like even Clark kind of get like it almost seems comical in a way, like it feels kind of whimsical, like musically, like it feels funny, and
right,
it's not. Like it's not
right,
funny at all.
right,
Like it's dead serious. Like
no,
and yeah, like he gets right down to it.
yeah,
Like it feels like, oh, this is the lighthearted moment. There is only one lighthearted moment, and we'll probably talk about it. But this ain't it. And
yes,
he made a point to make sure that his parts were never lighthearted. you know,
no, no. And you know what, man? And shout out to him too because he could have easily went the let me get a song on a radio route, right?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely,
Let me
yep,
let me try to do that because like back then was
right,
like Kane was popping and
right,
Slick Rick was out then with all his storytelling. Oh, that's another one we got to
yep.
do. Slick Rick,
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah,
you
hmm
know. But
yep,
yeah, caught like that. I mean, again, the storytelling, and it would be amazing to like interview Chuck D and like do like a
yeah,
decoded thing with him and just say
absolutely.
like, all right, man, like when you are
Hmm.
writing this stuff down, like what are you thinking? Like, do you read a book? Like, what's your process like?
Right,
You know,
right,
because like just the things
yep,
that he talks about, like a lot of it is about just um, black people's rights. You know,
yeah,
civil unrest, the whitewashing of history books,
yep,
what's going on in the governments around the world, not even just the United
right,
States. Um,
yep,
and this is before the internet, bro. Like this is before the
yeah.
internet.
Way before the internet.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
which is
that's
kind of
true.
crazy to say in today's world where we're doing this over the internet,
Right,
but like this is where like he had to legit go to libraries or get books from. I'm sure Professor X Griff gave him a lot of books,
right,
but
yeah, true.
bro, like it's just crazy, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy. So all right, so let's go. Oh, can I say one more thing and then we'll go into
yes,
like
sir. You the host, bro. You say whatever you want, player.
so I have to say I have to admit that I enjoyed. I guess we're kind of leading into like what songs were like not too hype on this time around.
Right.
I still enjoy the Anthrax Public Enemy collabo version of "Bring the Noise" than the one that's on this album.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
uh, I'm, and it could very well be just the fact that I was introduced to that version first.
Right. Right.
You know, so like
Yeah, that
then
makes
I
sense.
remember, yeah, like I remember hearing this version on "It Takes a Nation," and I
Hmm.
remember being like, "Oh, they remixed it," you know. They
I
had to
get
go
that.
back and do some homework.
Right.
You know, then it's just like, oh, okay. But after
right.
you go from like that, and I remember like the video was just like them in front of like it was like a green screen or just like a white
Yeah.
psych on them.
Right. Right.
Just rocking out the whole time. And
Yep.
again, this is like the MTV days, and I was just like, yeah, this is awesome, man.
Right.
And it's like that energy from that version of it um, always captured me. And then like I hear this version, like it's still energetic, like it's still
Yeah.
it goes with the brand of this album, but
Right.
I was like, oh, that's cool, you know.
Yeah. 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 Right. Right. Yeah. I get it. No, I get that. Yeah.
um,
That's
but
funny.
needless to say, like still a dope track, man. And
Right.
uh, so what a kind of album or not album, but like, are there any tracks on here that like as you're just letting it fly through your mind with your
Hmm.
headphones on? I imagine like is there anyone on here this time around that you were just like, they could have left that off of here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cold Lamp with Flavor on that one. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with that. You
You
know,
could
it's
have
funny.
said it, bro. You could have taken a breath. All right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to think about it too long. But
Yeah.
yeah, that song, yeah, I didn't love it then, and I love it much less now. Um, which is funny because like on the Fear of a Black Planet album, like I love 911 as a joke.
Yes.
Like I love that joint. I think that joint's
Yes.
great. I have no problem with
Yes.
that. I think it's Flav at like his peak. Like I just think it's a great
Yeah.
record. I think the video is hilarious and it's telling a strong
Yes.
message at the same time. But yeah, the Cold Lamp and yeah, it did nothing for me, man. It was yeah.
Yeah. Same here. Like it was one of those tracks where like I couldn't wait for that joke to be over with, bro.
Right. Yep.
I couldn't wait for it to be over with. And, yeah, that's when I texted like the Clay Thompson with his ear bleeding thing, man. You know what I mean? I'm just like this joint gotta get done with. And
It's
that's oh, here's another point, right? Here's another point
yeah.
about this era and this album. Like each not I can't say each, but a good number of these tracks
Hmm.
had like four verses on them, bro.
Yeah. That's
You
true.
know, like
Yeah.
this dude had stuff to say, and these songs, if you look at the times, some of these songs are like 5.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Everything was right around like five, right?
Hmm.
So
Yep.
like you can tell. So like a difference between then and like today's world is that like these dudes were like, I don't care how long the song is, I got something to say. I'm doing
Right.
this because I love it. Where like nowadays there's so many people that are involved with like what an artist can actually do. It's
Right.
hey man, they gotta get this song on the radio, so make it 2.5 to 3 minutes, and like,
Yep.
well, like what was the top song? I guess it would be 2019 ish to into 2020 was
Hmm.
Lil Nas X, right?
Right.
That
Yep.
joint was that song is like 2 minutes and like 15 seconds long or something like that.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
It's
Hmm.
quick, it's to the point, it's catchy,
Yep.
it's out of here.
Right.
A Public Enemy song off this album would never get radio play because that's five
Never.
minutes of radio time. They're like, no, that's too much,
Too much. Right.
right?
Too not enough attention span these days.
Yeah,
Can't trust society to want to listen that long. Right.
right,
Yep.
right.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, man, Cold Lamping, I gotta say for me too, man, it just was.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was just parts on that song where I'm like, why? Like
Right.
who did they just give us as like a gift to Flav because he did like
Yeah. I
drums
just
and stuff?
yeah.
Or
I'm sure they won. I'm sure they wanted him to sort of express his flavor flavness. And I'm sure, and obviously there are people that love Flav. Like, and maybe they did think as serious as the album is going to be, that maybe they need a little levity. And he would sort of bring that. Yeah, I'm good. I was yeah. That's the only thing. Yeah, I'm sure
yeah,
people love the record. Yeah, I'm not one of them. So
yeah,
it is what it is. So
yeah. If you
so
had
for
to
me,
ask,
that's the misstep. But does it take away from the album for me? It doesn't. Like like I can remember skipping it in my like 20s. After a while, I just be like, I don't like this song, and I fast forward because it was a tape back then.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
fast forward the tape, but but yeah, but it doesn't detract from the overall greatness of the album for me in the least
no,
bit. Yeah.
no, totally agree, man. There's too many bangers on here to like
Yep.
let one track that you don't like just be like, ah. So, but
Right.
like speaking of tracks, right? So like on this album, not even all the tracks had lyrics to them, or if they did, they're just kind of like scratched in ad libs, man. So tell me, there's different facets to hip hop, right? So like
Sure.
the DJ is a very key, well, at least was a
Right.
very
Yeah, it
key,
was. Hmm.
yes, a very
Yep.
integral part to hip hop, man.
It
Um,
is.
so
Absolutely.
even like a lot of times they used to be on the cover, like DJ
Yeah.
Jazzy Jeff, the Fresh Prince, and
Right. Yeah.
you would know who these guys were.
Right.
So talk about Terminator X and his cuts on here,
Hmm.
and like just the skill that goes in to that.
You know, listening. I remember years ago listening to Yo Bum Rush's show, and that was sort of his early days of DJing and scratching. And then you could definitely see and then they sort of went. They toured hard. They went heavy, and they toured dates upon dates and night after night, and then they went hard in Europe, and they toured. They it was
Mhm.
for them, it was an exercise. Like they Chuck wasn't playing. Like they went
Right.
out and they went 200% every night for every crowd.
Yep.
So iron sharpens iron. So
Yep.
Terminator sort of honed his craft as a result of that, and you sort of
Yep.
witnessed that growth. On the Nation of Millions album. Just his ability to just his timing and the Transformer scratch, which not a lot of
Yeah.
people were doing.
Yeah.
Obviously Jazzy Jeff was one of them that was a master of it.
Yep.
But there was only a handful of DJs that could really do it. And for him to, and I think he did that on Rebel Without a Pause at the end. And for him to do that, one that shows the confidence in his own ability, and it just
Yep.
shows his growth as a DJ. But what's refreshing about the album in general is the love that the DJ gets on it. Terminator
Yes.
X is referenced constantly in lyrics. He
Yes.
gets his own record. He gets, he almost, he gets his own solo.
Yep.
Like a bass guy would do, like in a band or
Yeah.
a rhythm guitar. Like he gets his own little time to shine.
Yep.
Which if unless you're DJ Premier, it's just not happening anymore. You know what I
Nah.
mean? So
Nah.
it was refreshing to just see the traditional idea of a group, a hip hop group that had a DJ that did scratches, that was prominent. Also, yeah, the instrumental thing, like having an
Yeah.
instrumental on your album. I mean, what? That
Yeah.
doesn't. It literally doesn't happen. It does not happen anymore. It just doesn't. Yeah, that's nobody's just giving a producer or a DJ. It's just not happening. It's just not unless you're the
Nah.
DJ, you are an executive producer and a producer of the record. It's not happening. It's just not. So for them
And
to
I
sort
don't
of
think.
to also do that, it was just refreshing to hear that and sort of reflect on a different time in hip hop.
No, I totally agree, man. And I think that also goes to the confidence that Chuck and Flav and all the guys there had in themselves and in each other, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
they didn't let the egos get involved to where it's like where if Chuck were to say like, "Yo, this is my show, like I'm the head guy,"
Right.
you fall back, man. You just go back there and you scratch and like help make the beats up.
Right.
They're like, oh, "This is us. Like, we're
This is
together
us.
on this thing, and
Yep.
let's go."
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, I think this album overall, man, is just dope. And
Hmm.
I gotta say, like, too, this time around, in the beginning for me, and you know what, and I think that like so I listened to it twice, and I think in the first time I wasn't in the right mindset to like actually
Hmm.
sit there and listen. So like the first like 4 or 5 tracks I was at the top of my head, I was just like, oh man, what the heck is going on here? And then like the back end of the album, which would I guess would be the B side, right?
Right.
In the tape world, I was just like, oh, this is it. But then I
Hmm.
listened to it again when I was in the right mindset, and I was
Right.
like, oh, this joint's just a straight banger, man. Like
Yeah.
lyrically, sonically, like
Yep.
just the layers that are in there.
Yep.
Um, and just knowing the history of Chuck D, and anybody that's listening to this, if you don't know the history of Chuck D, you think like he's just some guy that's on Instagram or Twitter,
Right.
like tweeting at people, like, go do your homework on this brother, because
Please do
he,
your homework.
oh my gosh, like, this dude so much more than even what you hear on the records. And
Right.
um, didn't he do a song for like He Got Game? Remember that movie with Ray Allen?
Sure did. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. They did. Yeah. Actually, they did a whole album for the soundtrack. The
that's right.
soundtrack is actually a Public Enemy album. Yeah. Yep.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right. Like
Hmm.
these guys, man. And then even too, like, and I'm sure we'll get to this album. I know, like, Fear of a Black Planet for me too, man, was like one of those Public Enemy albums that was just. I remember going to in our area, like the farmers market. Remember that? And
Uh huh. Shout out to the
I remember-
farmers market.
yeah, yeah. I remember going there and getting that joint, man, and like
Yep.
the just with the it's just the planet out there in space and
Yep.
Public Enemy on there, and
Yep.
that album with, like I said, 911 as a joke and all that, like that
Yep.
album was just so dope, and that may have been my introduction to Public Enemy actually.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Yeah.
I knew
Welcome to the Terror Dome. To this day, is one of my five favorite records of any
bro,
genre. I
bro,
mean, like
bro,
the first time I listened to it, I actually cried.
yeah,
Legit. Like I legit cried, like of joy, of shock, of disbelief that
yeah,
someone could make a record this incredible. Like
yeah,
it just, there's so, yeah. I mean, that, if we ever
yeah.
do Fear of Black Planet, I'll do my dissertation on what Welcome to the Terror Dome. But
Oh, hey,
it's,
brother.
it's one of the greatest records ever made, and people can fight me on it. They can fight me. they can come. We can fight in the front yard. Real rap. It's one of the greatest records of any genre in the history of music. It's
Ah,
unbelievable how great that record is.
come on
Unbelievable.
down, get
I
down.
mean, come
Yeah,
on, man. It's just,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah,
sonically, I mean, like, that's the thing with Public Enemy is they just knew they knew what they wanted to sound like, and they knew
yeah,
what they wanted to say, and they
yes,
knew how to put that together.
yeah,
In a way that would force you, like it's almost like the intro to that Robot Chicken show on Adult Swim, where they
yeah,
got the chicken in the chair with his eye poked up open or whatever, and it's forcing him to look at all the screens. Like that's
right,
what their music is. Their music pops your eyes open and pops your ears open. Like, oh, I need to pay attention. Like this
right,
man is speaking with a lot of power, and this record
yes,
is all in my ear. I need to really
yeah,
stop and listen to this. And yeah,
yeah.
that's what Welcome to the Terror Dome did for me. Not to jump albums, but yeah, that's again
Nah,
perfect record. That's one of them,
and
100%.
that's one that we will definitely take that back, man. And I just want to go
Yeah.
back to this album real quick and like read a couple of lyrics, man, and then get your take on it.
Yes.
This is from Party for Your Right to Fight, right?
Hmm.
So this I was gonna read the first verse,
Okay.
and people out there, listen up, all 10 of you. Uh, power, power and equality were power and equality, and we're out to get it. I know some of you ain't with it. This party started right in '66, civil
Mm.
rights, right? This
Yep.
party started right in '66 with a pro-black radical mix. Then at
Hmm.
the hour of 12, some force cut the power and emerged from hell.
Mm.
It was your so-called, this will called it out. Listen, it was your
Yep.
so-called government that made this occur, like the grafted devils they were. Bro, that's his
Hard.
first. That's the first verse that they come on the
The
gates with.
first verse from it, man.
Like, like
Yo,
I'm good for your
yeah.
head. All right,
I'm pulling no punches. Like
no,
I'm bringing everything with me. Yeah.
bro. Like, and
Yo.
then he goes. Here's verse 2. You ready?
Yep.
And feel free to interrupt. Give me any feedback, bro.
All
My
right.
man says J. Edgar Hoover, who was the head of the FBI,
Yes,
right?
sir.
J. Edgar Hoover, and he could have proved to you he had King and X set up.
Yep.
Also, the party with Newton, Cleaver, and Seal, he ended. So get up. So he's just
Hmm.
saying like all prominent black leaders were set up to be taken
Yeah.
out.
100%. And and now years later, it all proves to be true. You know what I mean? Like it
True.
all, you know, these were not conspiracy theories. These were legit things that happened in
Yeah.
real life in America. And
Yes.
and that's what happened. So
And
yeah,
not that long ago,
not that long ago. 100%.
right?
Yeah.
And what's he say here? Time to get them back. Get back on track. Word from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Know who you are to be black boy.
Yep.
Um, all right, let's see third verse. Here's where he talks about the black Asiatic man. He says,
Oh, okay.
"Those that disagree, it causes static." So that right there, for those who
Yep.
disagree, it causes static, right?
Yep. Right.
See, speaking about the government again, and like to those who disagree with this over here,
Right.
they're gonna come and cause static and
Just
get you.
they're coming right. That's when they're coming for you. Right. You're
Yeah,
dangerous. Yep. You
and then
gotta
he
be
goes,
eliminated.
yeah, and
Yep.
the next line is, for the original black Asiatic man, cream of the earth, and was here first.
Yep.
And then he's like, so that refers to it. I'm clicking on Genius right now. It says one of the
Right.
teachings of the nation of Islam is that the first humans were Asiatic black men,
Right.
and some devils prevent this from being known. So
Hmm.
we know what he's talking about.
Yep.
Uh, but you check out the books they own. Even Masons, the Freemasons,
Uh-huh.
even the Masons know it, but refuse to show it. But it's
Mm.
proven a fact, and it takes a nation of millions to hold us back.
There you go.
That
There it is.
song,
Yeah.
bruh,
I mean,
like
yeah.
that could be like a college thesis. Like that could be, you could
Yep.
take that like a hip hop course in
Yep.
class, college, and dissect. Just everybody takes a verse and then write
Right.
down what you get from this verse. Do your homework on what he's talking about.
Yeah. I mean, literally, it could be like a verse a semester, and you could just be like, okay, let's talk about bar three in the first verse.
Yeah,
Let's talk about the people that were discussed here in the topic. Let's dive into
yes,
that, and then boom, that's curriculum. There's your curriculum right there.
that's it.
You know.
That's it.
Yeah.
And imagine like what you're going to learn, right? So you're going to take his lyrics, and then you're
Right.
going to dissect. You're going to have to dissect them and get into them even more. And then like the stuff you're going to learn from that is just going to go down a rabbit hole, and you're going to
Yep.
come back so much smarter. And it all started from just these little nuggets that Chuck is putting in your brain
Yeah.
at this time, man.
Right.
Like, like the guy, I wish, for all like in 2021, like for all like the pro black movement and everything that we have going on now, like I wish that there were artists out there like this that would get play on the radio
Yeah.
that people could listen to and look up to.
Right.
Um, and and then, and look, I'm not taking away from the people that are out there today doing their thing, man. Like it ain't my cup
Sure.
of tea for a lot of them, but
Right.
this wasn't our parents' cup of tea, right?
100%. Right. You're right.
So,
Yeah.
every every generation has their sound, right? And
Right.
like we joke about all the time, like, oh, I want to be that old guy in the club being like, I remember when they had real music, you know?
Right. Right. Back in
Check,
the day, in my day,
right,
music was
right,
real. Y'all don't know nothing
right,
about this music. Right.
right,
Right. Right.
right. While our ancestors were like, really, you know?
Right.
So,
Man.
um, but yeah, bro. So this album is dope, man, and we got a fight going on.
Yeah. The dog. Yeah. The dogs is battling right now, fighting over
Yeah,
a ball. Yeah.
we got a rap battle.
Yeah. We
Um,
got. Yeah. Yeah. It's bars right now. Bars.
but
It's ridiculous.
but yeah, man. So with that being said, man, do you have something for the people, man? Like to you, does this album stand the test of time?
To that question, sir, my answer is yes. It does stand the test of time, mainly because there are just not enough people talking about subjects like this right now.
Yeah,
So that's really the main reason why it stands the test of time, because there are just not a lot of people, one, that are interested in talking about stuff like this on a regular basis, and
mhm,
two, it's not financially, beneficial to
mhm,
talk about things like this on a regular basis. Like, only select, you only have so many, Rage Against the Machines
yeah,
and artists like that, and Public Enemies, and
yeah.
and X Clans, and
Wow.
Paris, like,
Yeah,
you only have so many, or Ice Cube's America's Most Wanted album. Like those only come and they kind of go, and there's not really, you don't see a lot of that anymore, because bottom line is our society is just different, and we as a people just want to hear, just take us away from reality. I don't, just entertain me. I don't want,
yeah,
don't make me think about it. Just, take me away. That's why I'm listening to you,
yeah.
because I don't want to think. Well, we do a lot of not thinking,
Right.
which is the problem, because so many
Yeah,
people want to take us away from not
yep,
thinking that we're just not thinking. So, so that's why this
yeah,
album was slot right in perfectly in this day and age. One, because a lot of the subjects they're talking about are still relevant right now, first of all. And then
yes, sir.
secondly,
Yes, sir.
it's
Yes,
just,
sir.
it's important that we get back in the process of unlearning and relearning. Like, it's very important that we continue to learn as people, that we continue to unlearn
Mm,
the things that weren't necessarily true, or that,
yep,
or that were of a very limited scope, and it sort of put
yep,
blinders on to other things. It's very
yep,
important that we sort of broaden our mindsets and think about, what's really going on out in the world. And a record like this would jumpstart a kid. I know it jumpstarted a kid like me, but it would
yep,
jumpstart a kid now to open up a book or whatever, get on the internet and or listen to an audiobook, whatever. Same idea, to do their own research. Like, hey, who is Marcus Garvey? Why is he talking about Marcus Garvey so much? Like, what are Black Asiatics? Maybe I should look that up.
yep,
What happened to Nelson Mandela? What's
yep,
Margaret Thatcher got to do with it? That's all those things, would be, are enough to sort of, spark someone's mindset into, thinking. Whereas, a lot of today's music doesn't necessarily spark us to do that. It just sparks us to get on TikTok. So,
Yeah, distractions. That's full circle.
distractions.
Distractions, right?
100%. Yep.
The only artist I could say, and he's not even like an artist. Well, I don't say he's not an artist nowadays, but like he's been out for a while. Is Lupe, right? Like
Correct. Yep.
I
Yeah.
feel like Lupe has tracks that, and he's another guy where like you'll listen to, you hear the beat come on, and you're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is a nice radio song. And then you start hearing him talk, and you're like, oh,
Right. Yep. Then you're like, okay, yeah, right.
yeah,
Absolutely.
like
Yep.
he says stuff where like you don't even know what the heck he's talking about. Like you got to go look it up.
Yep. Exactly right.
But
Yep.
to your point, man, I totally agree with the fact that at least what you hear on the radio, or if you go on like Apple Music and look at like, all right, let me go here and click on all the top songs that they have
Mhm.
and see like what's hot nowadays.
Right.
Um, Nobody like these guys, they aren't talking about the ones that are being promoted by the record companies and pushed up on
Mhm.
iTunes and all that. They ain't talking
Right.
about anything like that.
Yeah.
Um, because that's not going to sell, right? Or if they
Right.
do, like J. Cole has made a couple of tracks, or Kendrick. So this is another album that we'll do some point is Kendrick Lamar's "The Pimp a Butterfly,"
Oh
because
yeah. That's yeah. Yep.
that was a very pro-black album,
No question. Yep.
very pro-black, and it's funny because that was his one album that was panned by a lot of people,
Imagine that.
right? Right? So
Yep.
he
Yep.
tried to make an album that was his version of this alerting everybody like what the heck's
Right.
going on, and people
Yeah.
were like, yeah,
Yeah. That's not what I want.
beat
Just tell
don't
me how
come
dope you are. Just tell me how
right,
dope you are. That's all I
right,
want. Just tell me how dope you are. Right.
and
Yeah.
also to that point, right? Lupe had the song called "Dumb It Down,"
Yep. Yes, he did.
right?
Yep.
Where he's talking about the dumbing down of the world, the dumbing
Yep.
down of America, man.
There you go. So that's
So
why, yeah, that's why this album would be so relevant. To sort of reverse that mindset that we have. That mire, the sunken place, and
yes, yeah, that's a great way to put it.
as Get Out would tell us and teach us.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're from a mindset and learning. As a whole, I feel like we're all sort of in a sunken place, and
yeah,
it'll take records like that to sort of pull us out of it. So, you know,
yeah. And I'll be curious to see like out of everything that's happened in the last couple of years, and that now that everything's out in like the mainstream
mhm.
light, right? There's not just like, oh, black people know about this. It's like everybody knows like what the heck's going on now. I'm
Right?
curious to see if there are artists that emerge because companies are putting money behind getting like black voices out there and telling the
Yeah.
story now. It's like the trendy thing to do. So
Right.
I'm curious to see if there are artists like a Blueprint, right?
Hmm.
Dude is
Yeah.
dope. That guy
Oh,
is
I
dope.
love it.
Like man, it's it takes. I know I'm going all over the place right here, but it's like Jay Z
Yeah.
said. Um, I want to rhyme like truthfully. I want to rhyme like common sense, but I sold
Right.
5 mil. I ain't trying to rhyme like common sense.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
'Cause
Yep.
truthfully, I want to be Talib Kweli.
Right.
Like that kind of tells you everything right there,
Everything. Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
These
Yeah.
guys are speaking that real stuff, but if you want
Hmm.
to sell records, you got to mix it
Yep.
up with the stuff over
Yeah.
here.
Mix it
So you
right.
get
You
the
gotta.
full status. They can do whatever the heck you want.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Right. Right. You got to get to a point, and then yeah, then it's your platform to do what you want. But
Right?
yeah, but to get there, you got to sort of cut your arm off and make that sacrifice.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
for a guy like
Those-
Lupe Fiasco, he's like, I that's not what I want to do. I want to say what I want to say right now. I don't want to wait until I'm
Yes,
50 or I'm a
right.
multi-billionaire to do it. I want to do it now. I want to make change. I want to
Yeah,
be the agent for change right now. So, that's
yeah. And I
that's
still
the
respect
that's
that, man.
yeah. It's the tightrope that an artist sort of has to walk between being successful and and speaking their mind and saying what they want to say, to sort of be an agent of
Yeah,
change. Because it's not easy to get that balance and make a living as an artist, or not get blackballed, or
facts.
or cast aside. Because how many people are
Right.
getting? How many times is Lupe Fiasco doing a guest verse on a record right now? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no,
You don't. Nobody gets with that dude. You know what I mean? Because
no.
he's in his own lane. It's
Yep.
like I'm trying to think like the
Lupe
Coup.
drops.
I was thinking about that West Coast group, the Coup. With
Yeah,
Boots
yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. Like
Yep.
they were dope then, but nobody's coming. Nobody's looking for them right now.
Right.
Because yeah,
No,
because
you're real, man. That's
yeah,
real. And it's not like Lupe will drop an album and you won't even know it because it won't show up on the iTunes like first what was released this week.
right,
You gotta like
yep,
stumble upon it and be like, oh shoot, Lupe. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yep.
It's crazy, bro. But uh,
Intelligence doesn't sell for the most part, sir. It does not sell.
unfortunately, that is accurate.
Yep.
But yeah. So I would advise anybody watching this, man, and I would say like too for myself. Yes, this does stand the test of time. Um,
Hmm.
I feel like now being older and more mature, like uh, I've learned a lot because I can reference the people that he is speaking about now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I hear these names, Garvey, um, obviously Mandela, but like
Right.
Thatcher, like all these people, I'm like, oh, Margaret Thatcher, oh yeah, the
Hmm.
permanent UK and all. So like
Right.
now, like, oh yeah, I get it
Right.
now.
Yep.
But like Chuck, and like, I mean, how old was Chuck D when this album came out? Like Flavor Flav and all of them,
Well, let's
right?
see. That's a great way. So the album came out. How many years ago did it come out?
88.
So that's what 30. What is that?
Chuck D was born in 60, so he was 28.
I see. He was 28 at the time. Okay. All right.
Dang.
Wow. So yeah. So he's like, yeah. So that was almost 40 years ago, right? Basically.
Jeez. So that brother was 28 years old spitting this.
Wow. 28.
And that's
Huh.
no internet. That's no
That's
internet,
no
bro.
internet. Right. That's no internet. Right. That's not like, hey, let me research on Wikipedia or, you know what I mean? Like, and do this album. Like, this is, hey, let me read 300 books over these years and let's do this record because now I got this in my
Yes.
head. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's reading
And not only
newspapers.
just do it
That's,
right.
you know what I
And
mean?
then have conversations about it. And then
Right.
top it off, you go and you make it rhyme and make sense.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. And to close it up on Public Enemy, the one thing I also respect about Public Enemy is that not only did they, sort of carve their own lane in terms of social commentary and just the way they approach their music, but also lyrically, to your point, the way Chuck rhymed. I mean, there is nobody else that's ever rhymed like
No,
that or
no,
has even tried. Like it never
no,
in the history of hip hop, there's not been anybody before or since that sounds like Chuck D. He like his rhyme scheme is not like it's not you cannot recreate it. Like
no.
there were times where he just didn't rhyme because he was, like he was just giving you sentences. Like he just
Right.
didn't rhyme sometimes purposely because he was just giving you
Yep.
sentences to digest. You know what I mean? But then other times he
Yeah.
would be right in that pocket, and he would, he'd be whatever, your hip hopper's hip hopper. But then other times he just was who he wanted to be. Like
Yeah.
his cadence and his delivery is like no one before him, during him, or since.
Nah,
It's
man,
crazy.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And like, I just read too, like, in reading about this, is that like he always came up with the title of the song first before he did anything else, before he wrote
Wow.
any of the lyrics, and then he would just write the lyrics on paper, barely edit anything. If he did edit, he may go to a computer, but everything was on a piece of paper. So there's your pen and a pad.
Right.
And he also preferred not to do punch-ins or overdubs. So like,
Mm.
my man just straight up came in and just spit the verse,
He just wrecked it. He just went
spit
in
the
and
verse.
wrecked
Yes,
everything.
that's it.
Man.
So, yes. So one final salute to wrap it up on Public Enemy and It Takes a Nation of Millions, man.
Yep.
This album definitely stands the test of time, and I think it's even
No doubt.
better nowadays for us because, like in our generation, because we understand it so much more nowadays, and you could take this to like a lot of people, and they would easier because you have a freaking phone and you can go do all this research on it for yourself.
Right.
This album it stands test of time and it gets the hip hop revisionist stamp of approval. So
Absolutely.
uh,
100%.
so stay tuned, for next week. Be on the lookout. Follow our Instagram page at hip hop. No wait, at revisionist hip hop. Sorry.
Revisionist hip hop. There you go. Yep. Yep.
Yes. And
You don't know how to spell revisionist, just Google it and then it'll come up and then you can put hip hop at the end. You'll be good.
yes, there you go. And that for YouTube too, man. We got a YouTube channel. We got a logo. We
Yep.
out here
Got a
being all
logo. Yep, got a lot of things popping over here.
Yes.
Episode 2, we got some things going. Shout out to my man CJ for the editing work that he's
Hey,
putting
brother.
in, and all the work he's doing behind the scenes on this thing. We appreciate you doing that. You
Hey,
know,
bro. We're doing what we
so
do, man. So, yeah, much respect, brother. Much respect. And all right, we'll see y'all next time.
all right, peace, y'all.
Peace, y'all.